From the start of the virus outbreak, there has been quite a focus on food and exercise, from what we've been stocking up on and cooking to working out online. But for people struggling with eating disorders, the restrictions have made their recovery harder, and charities say they've seen an increase in people turning to them for help. Megan Owen has more.
I've been struggling with bulimia for many years, but I've been finding it particularly challenging at the moment during the lockdown. I'm eating at home on my own, feeling quite ashamed and much more at risk of eating too much, making myself sick, all of these things that I try and avoid.
Right now, we're thinking more about what's left in the cupboards or when to take our daily exercise. But for James, this has already been a difficult part of his life.
Exercise used to be a big part of my illness, and I used to exercise in a really punishing way. Learning to exercise in a positive way was all about doing that with other people and it being fun, and not being able to go to yoga classes, not being able to exercise with other people, whether it's in a class or outdoors. That's something that I really, really miss, and actually puts me a bit more at risk of struggling with my eating.
Hope is in recovery from anorexia. She too has found the last few weeks hard.
I had this fear around lockdown and not being able to exercise outside. I had this fear around not being able to get the foods that I wanted, the foods that I felt safe and comfortable eating. I had this fear in my head around the fact that what am I going to do if we go into complete lockdown and we can't leave the house? Will that impact my recovery if I can't go running?
Life indoors means it's harder for them to talk through the issues, and looking online doesn't always help. Hope and James are both struggling in isolation, so we connected them on Zoom to see what's worked for them.
You've both talked about the challenges that you're facing in lockdown, but what advice would you have for each other to help cope?
So my first bit of advice is around having routine in place. So kind of making sure that you're getting up at the same time pretty much every day, you're getting dressed, you're washing your hair, and then you're kind of structuring your day around your meals and making sure that you're still sticking to that.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think structure is so important, and I quite like to be free and easy about things and be a bit intuitive. A really big thing at this moment, and this is something I would tell anyone who's struggling, is that if you need help, that is as real now and as valid now as it ever has been. And just because there is a national crisis going on doesn't mean that you shouldn't take your own problems seriously.
Megan Owen, BBC London.
Well, Jess Griffiths from the eating disorder charity Beat joins us now. Thanks very much indeed. Explain to us, if you can, having seen a big demand in your services, what makes this a particularly difficult time for people?
Well, I guess eating disorders are a way of coping with underlying emotional distress. So people focus on food, weight and shape as a way of coping with feelings. And at the minute, a lot of people have a lot of feelings, a lot of fear, as mentioned by James and Hope. And I guess with all the limits and constrictions around and stockpiling of food, people with eating disorders are really struggling to make sense of their recovery, of reaching out for support at the minute. It's really hard for them. And there are so many triggers around in the media in terms of exercising, and it's a really difficult time for them.
And have you seen anything like this in terms of demand for your services?
Well, recent statistics, even from this week, we've had the most sessions ever over this last month. We've had a 35% increase in calls. And so we know people are really needing the support at the minute. And obviously, as charities are struggling with funding, we're meeting that demand at the minute, but obviously people are needing to reach out for that support, and we're supporting them in the best way we can. We've opened a new web chat that's been open 12 till 8, Monday to Friday. So we've really looked to respond to the demand where we can.
James and Hope both talked about having structure to their days and how that's helped them. Aside from that, what other kind of advice would you offer people who are struggling?
Well, I would say that with all the feelings flying around at the minute, people are feeling fearful and guilty. And what we'd say is it's okay to not feel okay. And that, people with eating disorders sometimes find it hard reaching out for support or maybe admitting that they're struggling. And what we'd say is please use our services as much as you need to right now. And it's okay to feel fearful and need support.
And is that advice true for friends and family who may be worried about people they're living with as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we'd say to friends and family is, don't assume that they're okay. Reach out and ask them how they're doing. Maybe don't take control of their food, but do communicate in the best way you can with them.
OK, Jess Griffiths, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if you